And now we have the second session. This is the yoga for prevention of disease and promotion of health. Ladies and gentlemen, the preventive and the health promoting effects of yoga have been documented in the ancient Indian classics. The holistic approach of yoga in health promotion is being researched world over. The objective of this session is to deliberate on the potential of yoga in the prevention of diseases and towards health promotion. I would like to invite here our session co-chairs, inviting Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati. Sadhvi ji, ladies and gentlemen, as we invite her with a round of applause here on the stage, welcoming her. She was raised in an American family in California. She completed her PhD when she left America in 1996 to come and live permanently at the Paramatniketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. She has been living here since then, engaged in spiritual study, practice and service. She is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, which is dedicated to bringing education and empowerment to women and children. May I request Sadhvi ji to kindly accept these flowers as a welcome gesture, and these floral and fresh flowers communicating our love and respect for you. Inviting now our second co-chair, Dr. D. Nagaraja ji, former Director, Vice Chancellor and Senior Professor of Neurology, the National Institute of Mental Health and also Neurosciences, Bangalore. Also the Director, Dharwad Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. He has delivered many prestigious orations, including the M.N. Gupta Oration, Sarabhai Oration, Presidential Oration of the Indian Academy of Neurology, Indian Stroke Association, and he has given more than 240 research publications, more than 300 presentations, and has guided more than 25 PhDs. Inviting now our speakers, Dr. W. Selvamurthy, he is designated Chancellor, Amity University, Chhattisgarh, working as President of the Amity Science, Technology and Innovation Foundation, also Director General for the Amity Directorate of Science and Innovation and Chair Professor for Life Sciences. He has also served the Defence Research and Development Organization, Government of India, for 40 years, in which all the health-related life science research technologies were developed and inducted in the armed forces. He is going to be speaking to us on the prophylactic, promotive and curative effects of yogic practice, scientific perspective. Inviting our next speaker, Dr. Mukund Bhole. He's going to be speaking to us on working with the awareness of breath and breathing in yoga. Dr. Bhole is Executive Committee member of the Indian Yoga Association and former Joint Director of Research, Kaivalyadhama, Lonavala. He has also compiled and edited abstracts and bibliography of articles published by Kaivalyadhama. Our next speaker, Dr. Shashibala Singh. She is a scientist and director at the Defence Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences, Delhi. She is scientist age, having the distinction of serving in the difficult terrain of Leh Ladakh. She served as Director, Defence Institute of High Altitude Research, Leh, before taking over as the Director, Defence Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences. She is going to be talking to us on the yoga for soldiers in extreme environments. And now inviting our next speaker, Dr. Krishna Madappa. Dr. Krishna Madappa is the President of the Institute of Science, Spirituality and Sustainability, USA. He's a trustee at the Southwestern College and New Earth Sciences, USA. Dr. Madappa also is a research advisor at S. Vyasa, India. With the intention to bring the wealth and the depth of practical knowledge, he has acquired his rich association across the world with leading scientists and premier institutions. He also co-founded the Nirmaya Life with a vision and mission dedicated towards inner engineering for personal excellence. He shall be speaking to us on applied spiritual sciences for well-being. And now I would like to hand over to Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati for the opening remarks and then for the further proceedings. Just to apprise our speakers, there is a timer which is right in front. The opening remarks have been timed for close to 10 minutes. Post that, as our speakers start, the first speaker time is 20 minutes, and then for the second and the third speaker subsequently 15 minutes each.
All of our renowned panelists, our yogis, scientists, researchers, experts, religious, political, social, national and international leaders. It is so wonderful to be here today celebrating this International Yoga Day. As I look out and see all of my brothers and sisters from so many countries and cultures from around the world, I realize that not only are we here talking about yoga, but actually this hall itself is yoga. As I'm sure has been spoken about numerous times today, the word yoga means union. Sometimes, tragically, we think it's only a union of our nose to our knees, or a union of our fingers to our toes, or our head to the floor. And yet, ultimately, it's a union of the self, this individual, physical, transitory self, with all of creation, with the Creator and the creation. And as I look out here, I realize that we actually here today have this beautiful union, this beautiful yoga in action of all of these people from all over the world coming together to talk about the art, the science of yoga. This session is so beautifully dedicated to the health benefits of yoga. Now, when we think about health, of course, there's a couple of different ways to think about health. The first being health of our physical being, health of our bodies. We all know the role that yoga plays in bringing about health in the body. From strength and flexibility to immunity, to the oxygen that pervades and permeates our cells through pranayama, through all of the benefits that we attain in the study of yoga. And yet, when we talk about health, we have to incorporate the emotional and the mental component, because as all of our doctors and scientists know, what our sages and saints and rishis told us thousands of years ago, that which takes place in our mind and our hearts and our emotions is what's translated into our bodies. Today, in the West, in top research institutions ranging from Princeton to Duke to Dartmouth, they're giving us study after study after study, showing the role of our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs on our physical health. My favorite story about this is a joke. That's a story of a man who goes to the doctor, and he says to the doctor, "Doctor, there is something very wrong with me. Whatever I touch, it hurts. When I touch my head, it hurts. I touch my stomach, it hurts. I touch my back, it hurts." And the doctor, of course, is very surprised and concerned because typically people come with one complaint: a headache, a backache, a stomach ache. But this man, everything hurts. So he runs every test and every scan, and at the end he calls the man in and he says, "I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is there is nothing wrong with your back, your stomach, your head, your knees. The bad news is your finger is broken. And since your finger is broken, whatever you touch, it hurts. But it hurts, of course, not because there's something wrong in the body. It hurts because that with which we are touching the body is disconnected. And that's what's happening in our lives. Our lives hurt. We hurt physically, even though we've eradicated the diseases that plagued us last century, even though we've come up with vaccinations, inoculations, antibiotics, antivirals, antifungals, nonetheless, we're no healthier. In fact, although we may suffer less and less from what one would term a disease, our rate of dis-ease, lack of ease, is increasing exponentially day by day. And diseases that have no known cause, not the stuff you get from bad water, bad food, or mosquitoes, those diseases, autoimmune diseases, cancers, these diseases are increasing day by day. We are suffering from an internal, societal state of dis-ease. And what yoga does is it brings us back into a state of balance. It is said so beautifully, Stiram Sukham Asana. And what it means is that which brings stability, that which brings real joy is asana. Asana is not just how low can you go, how close to your knees or your toes can you reach, how long can you stand in Shirshasana. Asana, yoga, is that which brings stability in our lives. Not just stability in our feet, but stability in our mind, our thoughts, our emotions, and true joy. Because ultimately, joy and peace are what we're all looking for. Having them, modern science, neurology, immunology tells us, actually are the greatest and strongest precursors of strong physical health. Lack of peace, lack of joy, lack of balance are the precursors to disease in our bodies, which begins with just dis-ease in our minds and our hearts. So here today we have such renowned and expert scientists who will be sharing with you the crux of their experience, their expertise in how, through this practice of yoga, we can bring back the health in our bodies and then, of course, in our families. Because this union that we attain within ourselves is one then that brings union and connection and balance in our families, in our communities, in our societies, in our nations, and between our nations. So today here, as we're talking about health, we may begin by speaking about the health of the cells of our being. But what we all need to realize is that the world in which we live is just a reflection of the cells of our own being. And when we have health and union and balance and stability and joy in the cells of our own being, that is what we will bring forth into our communities and into our world. Thank you.
The first two speakers who are related to the defense forces, basically talking about prevention and promotion of health, as well as to preserve health in the extreme conditions of high altitude. Though prevention is talked about, it was merely physical till the last few decades ago. It's only a few decades ago WHO considered spiritual as a part of health. Though we talk about health promotion in the West, hardly there are any tools to implement this health promotion, especially in the area of mental health. It is all general, no specific solutions. In yoga and the Indian system of medicine, there are positive, specific tools available which will help us to attain positive health so that we can prevent diseases coming to us. Dr. Selvamurthy will be speaking on prevention and promotion of health through yoga.
Honorable chairpersons, the lovers of yoga, proponents, researchers, all those who are associated with yoga, who are present here and who are not present over here. Let me pay my salutations to all of you. It's because of your efforts today yoga has become global. Yoga has been global, but then the United Nations gave the status of yoga as an official promoter of yoga, the health as well as the path to higher consciousness. So this day is a day of celebration, day of great responsibility. So today it's all of us who are associated with yoga. Our responsibility has been raised by declaring it International Yoga Day, this 21st June as International Yoga Day. Today is also Father's Day. So why do we celebrate Mother's Day, Father's Day, International Yoga Day? It's because we want to remember the father, the mother, and others who are associated with those days every day. And we have to respect them, we have to love them, we have to be grateful to them. So similar thing applies to yoga. Yoga has done so much to the world. And today one system which India has given to the globe, it is yogic science, yogic life, yogic way of living leading to global peace. So that is what we all need to understand, that how do we place this science of yoga, the philosophy of yoga at the right pedestal so that the whole world benefits, the whole humankind benefits over a period of time, not just only in our generations, but for generations to come. So we should be grateful to the United Nations, grateful to the Government of India, grateful to the Department of Ayush, and also to the Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga, which in fact propagated the whole concept. I was very fortunate to be associated with all this over a period of time. For 40 years, I have been practicing yoga, I have been doing research on yoga, I have been associated with the Department of Ayush, which was established now, but before that I learnt yoga from this Central Research Institute of Yoga as a student of yoga. Then I was associated with the union of this two together, Vishwayatara Yogashram and Central Research Institute of Yoga. Then made it as a national institute. Then I was also fortunate to accompany Dr. Thakur when he was Minister of Health to World Health Assembly, made a presentation on yoga. And when he was the Minister of Health, then also to in the House of Lords, there was a subcommittee under John Walton, the neurologist, to see how complementary system of medicine like yoga can be placed on a scientific pedestal on the category 1 of complementary system of medicine. So I was so closely associated with yoga and not only doing yogic research but also practicing yoga for 40 years. So I'll give a little glimpse of what is the science of yoga based on a series of research projects I have done over a period of time, more than 15 research projects on young, middle, and also the aged people and patients of hypertension, patients of coronary artery disease, diabetes. So I'll give a little glimpse in the next 15 minutes that how yoga is beneficial. It has prophylactic, promotive, and curative aspects of health. I will skip all this because yoga has been talked about at length, so I will straight go to the experiments. In all this, we have taken the control group doing a routine physical training program, and in the other group, we selected in place of physical training, we have substituted yoga. And I took the armed forces as the population because you can control the study. Diet can be controlled, physical activity can be controlled, the population in terms of their lifestyle can be controlled. If you ask them to practice yoga for an hour under the supervision, they will practice it. So many variables which will interfere with the research findings were able to be controlled since we were able to carry out this at the Defense Research and Development Organization where I served for 40 years. I looked for the application of yoga for the armed forces as a population who are exposed to very severe degree of stress, both physical, physiological and psychological stress. So that is why this population is one extreme example which you can extrapolate these findings to the common man who is not a yogi or a sadhu, who is going to lead a yogic way of life. So I have taken only the asanas, pranayama and meditation, which is only one component or a few components of yogic life or yogic practice. So whatever the results show is not the complete yogic effects or yogic practice effects, but the practice of asanas, pranayama and meditation. So the group was given 1 hour yogic practice and the other side 1 hour physical training in the control group. So we were looking at all the physiological, biochemical, psychological, clinical variables over a period of time. I will just straight go to the results. So what we were looking for, does yoga has got preventive effect? If so, what is the mechanism of preventing disease? Similarly, if yoga is promotive, what does it do for the physical, mental, cognitive abilities and also the quality of life? Then I was also looking at the curative in specific disorders, particularly the stress-related, psychosomatic. It's not a panacea for every disease. So we were looking at stress-related as well as the psychosomatic manifestations. So it's very clear objective that we were looking at the prophylactic, promotive and curative potentials of yoga. And these were some of the experimental setup. We did use MRI and others. So what I found, I will come straight to the glimpses of the results and the findings. If you look at the results, that what yoga does, it brings all your body functions close to the normal side of the lower side of the normal range. Every physiological functions and your range of normalcy. If you take your heart rate, anywhere between 80 to 60 or 60 to 80 is normal. Systolic, anywhere between 110 to 140 is normal for different age group. Similarly, anywhere diastolic between 70 to 90. The point is that all the physiological functions has a range of normalcy. What this slide shows, the practice of yoga, your heart rate comes down over a period of 6 months. Blood pressure, systolic and diastolic comes down. In the control, you have that control. The dotted lines are your control and the solid lines are your the yoga group. So that in this slide, the message it gives is yoga brings all your physiological functions to the lower side of the normal range, thereby minimizing the wear and tear in your system. So when you get into stress, all your physiological functions are going to shoot up. So in that process, if you are already in the top of the curve, where you top of the normal range, you are going to shot up here. But if you are here, you are going to reach here. So that is how it gives a greater buffer for stress-free activity. How does it happen? It happens because of your autonomic stability. Because body has got both sympathetic and parasympathetic functions. A heating system, cooling system, both are necessary. When you need energy, physical, mental, social, physical, mental activity, you need energy. That has to come from increasing your heart rate, increasing your blood pressure, increasing your metabolism. So that is the time when all this is given by the heating system, sympathetic overactivity. Then you need to bring it back when this is over. So it has to, the parasympathetic has to be very active. So when you practice yoga over a period of time, it gives stability of autonomic equilibrium, the excitatory and inhibitory system. And also it brings all your body functions to the lower side, thereby minimizing your wear and tear in the vital organs, thereby giving the right kind of vitality of the system. Then the alpha index, the mental activity. When you look at this, the reticular activating system, which sends all your inputs into the brain, that gets strengthened. It will allow only, it will filter unwanted information and sends only the right information, which will be reflected by the alpha index of EEG, the alpha waves between 18 to 13 hertz. That increases with the yogic practice, which indicates that it maintains the tranquility of mind. This is what is also shown in this slide. You see, after the yogic practice with the lifestyle program, you find that there is an increase in alpha activity. Then we also did the functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI. You will find both the activation of both the frontal, prefrontal, as well as occipital, which indicate that when you practice yoga, it does improve your cognitive as well as the other powers which otherwise are dormant. Then yogic practice, also the meditative practice, which is part of yoga, as Bhaskar already mentioned, that it gives an activated arousal when you practice yoga. Then it improves body flexibility. I measured that by goniometer at various joints like shoulder flexion, extension, neck rotation. All this we measured. And body flexibility, it becomes supple. The body becomes supple through its actions on the muscles as well as the ligaments. Then I looked at the submaximal level of exercise by putting them on a bicycle ergometer, measuring the cardiorespiratory functions as well as oxygen consumption. You find in this slide, the first one is before yoga, the right side is the control, the left side is the yoga group. You find that after the 6 months of practice, there is a rightward shift of the lactic acid buildup. That means you are able to sustain your physical activity at submaximal level for a prolonged period of time without getting fatigued. So this is what is the message comes from this. So yoga can also improve your physiological efficiency for work performance at submaximal level. Then I looked at the biochemical profile. All that the message, instead of it's a crowded slide, but the message it gives is it brings all your functions to a relative hypometabolic state. Then a person requires also the thermoregulation efficiency. You see the yogis living in mountains with minimal clothing. How are they able to do that? So what is that advantage a person gets after practicing yoga? Then what I found was yogic group is able to sustain a core temperature in a controlled cold exposure, 4 degrees, with no clothing except shorts on for 2 hours. When you expose them, the core temperature drops. But the drop is much less, the top curve, much less in the yoga group as compared to the physical training. This is possible to be achieved either by heat production or heat conservation. So I looked at the mean skin temperature, which will indicate the heat dissipation, and also the shivering or non-shivering thermogenesis, which will be reflected by ventilation as well as oxygen consumption. So I measured the VO2, which indicates that the shivering started much later in yoga group and was of lower magnitude, but still they were able to maintain the core temperature. So this was achieved by non-shivering thermogenesis rather than producing heat by shivering. So this is what is the yogis use, that non-shivering metabolic thermogenesis. Then I looked at the cognitive abilities, concentration, memory, learning efficiency, vigilance, alertness of mind, depression scores, anxiety, all this by proper tests, psychological tests. I found that all this improved. So yoga not only improves the physical efficiency, but also the cognitive abilities as well as the quality of life. Then I was looking at the prophylactic effect on the diabetes. Can it help to prevent? There are indications that it can help to improve your glucose tolerance test in normal people, so you can avoid the landing up in terms of the diabetes. Then we did essential hypertension. Everybody claims yoga is good for hypertension. So what we found, how yoga works to bring the blood pressure back to normal. So I looked at the mechanism. So what we found, the carotid sinus baroreflex mechanism, which becomes sluggish in the hypertensive patients, it gets reactivated by doing yoga. So I had a control group which did only passive tilt. You put the patients, hypertensive patients, on the tilt table, tilt them to 70-degree head up and 35-degree head down. Then another yoga group, I selected asanas which will involve 70-degree head up and also 35-degree head down. So this was the control group, this was the experimental group. Then I looked at the blood pressure coming back in the group which practiced yoga. And I looked at the renin-angiotensin mechanism, catecholamines, cortisol, all this get improved. So the mechanism is yoga activates two ways. One is the baroreflex sensitivity is restored. The other one is it keeps the tranquility of mind. So that is the mechanism. This is the renin-angiotensin and the plasma catecholamines. Then the next study on the coronary artery disease patients revealed coronary angiogram regression we demonstrated. Dean Ornish only showed the progression of the disease is reduced, but whereas we demonstrated that through the lifestyle intervention in which Raja Yoga meditation was one of the important components, we were able to cause regression. First time we reported regression of coronary artery disease. So this was the intervention which we gave, and we looked at the various mechanisms. So I won't go into the details for the paucity of time. So I will go straight to the last few slides. The yoga therapy also is, we looked at the infrared thermograph to see in sinusitis patients and also the varicose veins, and many other cases we did that, and Raja Yoga meditation. Now I will give the message, because there is a lot of work has been done. I will discuss it, those who are interested with. But otherwise, the message I like to give is yoga has to get into schools at global level. In all the schools now, UN and also Government of India should make efforts to see that next generation is the base which we should focus on. So we should bring yoga at all cross-sectional level, but also particularly in the school level. We should also bring it in the corporate, because you find a lot of people under stress, particularly with the IT industry booming up globally. We need to bring that. And the final last slide is, we should promote popularized yoga at global level as science and way of life, not just mere asanas or meditation, which are part of yogic life. So we should do it a holistic, integrated approach of yoga that need to be promoted, because we know the prophylactic, promotive, and curative aspects of yoga. All our centers globally, we should network. So it should become a movement rather than just only some activities, sporadic activities like this. Today, the International Yoga Day, it should become a movement, global movement, by which we will be able to achieve global peace, global health. So we need to look at how do we integrate Australian centers, UK centers, US centers, Indian centers. First, network within the countries, and then bring it together as a global networking of these centers, so which is very essential to create the awareness and promote yoga at the global level. The other message I like to give it to the national level task force. We should set Basavareddy, Department of Ayush, involve all the people, bring them, proponents, scientists, and also bureaucrats, politicians, put them together as one important task force. We should take it on a mission mode to promote this. So this is another thing which I thought Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga as well as Department of Ayush should promote and propel that kind of effort. We should also do it at global level through social media. All of us who have done research, who know about research benefits, we should talk about it. We should write in the media, in all kinds of electronic media as well as print media. So we should again take it as a mission to popularize yoga in a very simple, popular language. Then we should also prepare a large number of ICT. Today I saw in Ayush is sending a lot of information on my mobile. So it should become mobile is there everywhere with everyone, almost everyone. So I think we should use those media in a proper way through, and right kind of ICT materials have to be prepared. Yoga demonstration everywhere. We should now do that. Scientists speaking about it, and also yoga proponents talking about it, because yoga is not for only health. It is for achieving higher level of consciousness. The health is only one first step to reach that. Ultimately, the purpose of creation as a human being is to elevate yourself to achieve higher level of consciousness. So yoga does that. So it's just not only for health, it is for spiritual evolution as well. So that needs to be promoted as a way of life to elevate oneself. Then we should formulate an international community with representatives from active yoga centers so that that becomes a core group at global level which should propel the yogic science. Ultimately, we should promote further research in understanding the subtleness of yoga. We have not understood everything. These are only a little bit tip of the iceberg we have been able to understand, not only in India, but also across the globe. The researchers have been able to do only the tip of the iceberg. So we should do a lot of research on subtle, because now technology is coming, positron emission tomography, functional MRI, and many more technologies is coming up now, computational capabilities. So all this we should be able to harness to understand yoga, yogic way of life, yogic science better. So that's the final message, and thank you very much. All of us should take a resolution today on the International Yoga Day that we'll put our heart, mind, soul into this, promoting yoga for the better mankind as well as for global peace. Thank you very much.
I will straightway come to the subject matter. I am just going to share my views on a very tiny aspect of whole yoga, that is working with the awareness of breath and breathing movements. So with reference to breathing or respiration, usually we talk and discuss about the exchange of gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, quality of air and its pollution, collection and analysis of breath, composition of breath, various volumes and capacities, etc. Most of these very important considerations about breathing are studied in laboratory in an objective way. Air, material substance like food and water, is at the center of these considerations and studies in relation to the human being. Medical science also refers to the mechanics of breathing, control and regulation of breathing, thoracic, diaphragmatic and abdominal breathing. These aspects of breathing are also studied objectively with suitable instruments. However, they are directly related with the individual who is breathing. As the individual gets disturbed and influenced by nature, these parameters also show variations. Traditional yoga education gives importance to the subjectively developed awareness of the movements of the body, air, that is swas or breath, and energy, shakti, related with involuntary and voluntary breathing, and working with the same during the practice of pranayama to get the glimpses of the self and to work with the self. Surprisingly, there is no mention of diaphragm, diaphragmatic breathing, as well as oxygen, carbon dioxide and other gases in traditional yoga literature. Instead, we read about vayus, prana and pranayam while working with breath and breathing. We also find terms like 10 vayus, 5 pranas, main pathways, margas of vayu and prana, 6 lotuses or chakras, purak, kumbhak, rechak, along with inhalation, retention, exhalation of breath, in relation to the practice of pranayama. These terms and concepts are based on the experiential aspect and awareness of the movements of the body and breath during breathing through the internal sensing mechanisms, manas in yogic language. Experiencing movements of the trunk related with natural inhalation and exhalation on the four sides with the help of hands during a state of good relaxation after a session of asanas will make us aware of the lotus flower-like opening and closing movements of the trunk segments. We can understand the concept of prana apan vayus through this experiential knowledge. The awareness of these multi-directional opening and closing type of movements, prana apan vayus, are different from that of the linear balancing and vertical movements of the body, which can be compared with the concept of pran and vyan, saman and udan vayus, very often used in so we use these three types of movements in various training and education programs, including yoga. Internalizing our attention while experiencing these opening closing movements, prana apan vayus, will help us to recognize and appreciate the presence and working of an internal force, Shakti, being responsible for them during involuntary breathing. Movement of the thoracic diaphragm, which is not mentioned in traditional yoga texts, is responsible for the creation of this force. Many uninformed people feel and think that the air movement is responsible for the body movements during breathing. This wrong notion needs to be corrected for taking advantage of pranayama for the maintenance of health. Objectively, medical profession measures the volume of air moving in and out of the lungs and calls it breath or tidal volume. It can be collected in a suitable container and sent to a lab for analysis of different gases, alcohol content, etc. In yoga, swasa prashvasa is the awareness of inward-outward air movement developed through the touch sensations, sparsha samvedana, arising inside the nasal passages, nasikya prana, or the mouth cavity, mukha prana. Subjectively felt and experienced knowledge of swasa and prashvasa in yoga cannot be collected in a container and analyzed like the breath of medical science. Therefore, objectively studied and understood term breath should not be equated and compared with the yogic term swasa, even though both are related with air. In future, it may be possible. Beginner in yoga needs to be guided to recognize and appreciate the concept of prana apan vayus while working with breathing in different areas of the trunk during the practice of pranayama. Breathing movements can be initiated in the blocked areas with the help of suitable asanas and kriyas. So also, wrong type of body movements have to be corrected, vayu shuddhi, for progress in pranayama and yoga. Possible implications of such type of working with breath and breathing on yogic lines has been attempted in the line of brain functions. So we all know that there is representation of the body in the cortex, the motor cortex and the sensory cortex. So there is different areas of the body are represented in these areas of the brain. Now, if you go into more details, you will find that there is a very small area given to the trunk, or representing the representation of the trunk in the sensory cortex as well as the motor cortex. Now, if you are going to practice with breathing in the area of the trunk every day, we will be increasing the traffic of impulses going out from the motor cortex and reaching the sensory cortex. So, hypothetically, will it be possible for us to increase this area in due course of time? In Indian tradition, the children were introduced to practice pranayama right from the age of 9 years. So they were stimulating not only through the body these areas in the brain, and were also developing the consciousness to work in a different way, not just in a linear movement or balancing movement, but to open and to close. So in conclusion, it could be said that in ordinary life, we use our body and senses like transparent glass pans to see and perceive external objects and events. In yoga, the same structures and faculties are made to function as mirrors reflecting the existing condition and state of the self. Accordingly, corrective measures can be taken to get established in a balanced and integrated condition, samadhi. As vital activity, working with the awareness of breath and breathing on yogic lines helps the individual to take care of other vital activities. Awareness of mechanics of breathing involving body movements help to understand the working of the prana and apana vayus. It is sensed, monitored, studied, analyzed, and is suitably modified in the interest of the individual. This is how we can apply yoga knowledge to maintain psychophysical health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. M.V. Bole. We now have Dr. Shashi Bala Singh speaking about yoga for soldiers in extreme situations.
Good afternoon, respected chairpersons, distinguished delegates. I'm going to talk about soldier who is posted in extreme and environmental conditions and what kind of yoga packages we have developed. We have also validated them scientifically and also trying to understand the science behind yoga. Yoga is a very, very old, century-old science, though we do not understand much, but with the technological advances in the area of biomedical sciences, we have started understanding how does yoga bring about the beneficial effect in the body system. Today I am going to talk about yoga with respect to or in the perspective of the Indian soldier. We know India is a very vast country. We experience almost all the climatic conditions across. In north we have high altitude where hypoxia and cold coexist. If we see we have hot deserts, we have hot and humid heat. Not only this, we have northeast jungles where we have low intensity conflict environment, and also we know that our soldiers sometimes they go in submarine and stay there for a few months, and also on board in the ship, again it's a confined environment where they are staying. Now these environments are very difficult, very, very stressful environment. We are all sitting in a thermo-neutral zone here with the air-conditioned temperature of 25 degrees. But imagine a soldier who is in high altitude when outside temperature is minus 30, minus 40, with not only this, with less oxygen availability. Cold, can be overcome behaviorally, but hypoxia doesn't leave you. It doesn't leave you wherever you go, and that causes decreased oxygen availability to the cells. Not only this, we have other co-founding factors like high UV radiations, lot of less precipitations. Then all this environment makes life very, very difficult to survive, not only to survive, sustain, and also to perform. You know, when we talk of soldiers, it is not just survivability, sustainability, it is also performance. They need to perform. So these stressful environmental conditions are the conditions which are challenging to most life forms and requires significant human adaptation for survival and performance. And in these environmental conditions where basic needs like food, acquisition, shelter, protection requires an extraordinary effort. You know, now the question is, as I said, why yoga for armed forces? It is very, very clear, because when we talk of armed forces, when we talk of soldiers, they are there in those stressful environmental conditions for a very, very specific job. They have to be physical, physiologically, and psychologically, and also spiritually very, very in a good shape so that they can do their job well. Yoga, we have been working in this area for almost 4 decades, and we have been able to customize these packages for different armed forces, for Navy, Air Force, and Army. Not only this, also for paramilitary forces. Some of the initiatives which DPAS has taken to understand the science behind yoga. You know, yoga has many components like breathing exercise, asanas, meditation, and much more than this. We were just trying to understand how does some of these physiological functions behave or change when one is engaged in all these asanas, some of the asanas. And this slide shows how does blood pressure varies when one is doing some of these asanas, which has been mentioned here. One of the important factors which I want to tell the audience is any stressful environmental condition causes increase in sympathetic activity, which causes increase in heart rate, blood pressure, and many other physiological parameters. And on this, if someone is doing asanas, it will increase these parameters further. So we have chosen the asanas which increase these physiological parameters, but not to a level that it can go into some kind of non-physiological functions. Similarly, this shows aerobic capacity, VO2 max, which changes during different yogic practices. Here, this slide, the message from this slide primarily is yoga asanas, most of the asanas which I mentioned here, when they are being done, the energy cost of work is equivalent to about sub-maximal exercise. That is, they are very cost effective. We are getting the same kind of experience in terms of physical and physiological parameters when one is doing a maximal exercise like running. So these asanas are cost effective. We require less oxygen, less energy expenditure to achieve those kind of physical and physiological functions which are required so that the work efficiency or work output can be optimized. Not only optimized, we can also facilitate work output or the physical work performance when these asanas are done for a longer time. Similarly, cardiovascular changes like heart rate, stroke volume, and then cardiac output. Again, to emphasize the point, if you look at this, you know, if someone is doing the maximal exercise, the cardiac output can be about 16 liters per minute. But here, when we do this exercise, like if we look at some asanas where the cardiac output is just about half of what we achieve in maximal exercise. Again, trying to suggest all these asanas, energy expenditure, oxygen uptake is below sub-maximal kind of exercise. Only Surya Namaskar may be equivalent to the sub-maximal exercise. Otherwise, all these asanas required less energy, and also their heart rate and blood pressure, other parameters also remain below the sub-maximal level. Now, after understanding some of these physiological functions in terms underlying these asanas, we, in collaboration with Morarji Desai Institute, developed some of these customized packages because, as I said, these armed forces, when they are posted to different environmental conditions, these environmental conditions are specific to specific regions, like Air Force have a very, very specific demands because they may be at a higher altitude, about 30,000 feet, but they are there for few minutes or few hours, or because once they go back, drop the thing and they come back. Like high altitude is another area where we need to take care of the asanas which can induce thermogenesis. Hot desert, where we want the system to regulate body temperature and also the body water content. Low intensity conflict is an environment where the enemy is in the group. One doesn't know what can happen the next moment. So there is a constant stress on the individual in that group. Navy, again, submarine. The main problem is circadian rhythm get disturbed. One doesn't know when is the night or when is the day. It's all by watch. So all these conditions are very specific, and we need to have the specific asanas which can take care of those functions so that the effects can be minimized and the performance can be optimized. So these are the asanas which are being customized, like for Air Force. Some of the asanas which are included is like Tritaka, Brahmari, and also meditation. Similarly, for Navy, it is mainly as a confined environment where circadian rhythmicity is disturbed. We have included some of the asanas which are specific to that, and also in submarine. It's a very confined environment. So, here some of the asanas which are there, but Surya Namaskar is not there because Surya Namaskar requires more energy. As I said, it is at about sub-maximal level, so it is not included in the training capsule for the submarine, which is inside the ship for a few months. Similarly, for high altitude, we have some of the asanas at the high altitude. Again, it's a very stressful environmental condition, and here we advise them to do these asanas as a lower frequency, lower rate. And also, some of the asanas like Kapal Bharti increases both heart rate and blood pressure. Again, they are advised to do at a lower frequency. And pranayamas are also given in a very, very simple way so that heart rate and blood pressure can be minimized and can be kept within the physiological limits. And this has been the guiding philosophy of yoga, what Dr. Selvamurthy also said. We also work towards preventive, promotive, and curative because prevention is always cost effective. And here, when we are looking for promotion, we are just first in the stressful environmental condition. There are two things which always occurs. As the stress level increases, there is a deterioration in the performance, both physical and mental. So we always focus, how can we optimize performance? And not only optimize performance, we also want to further facilitate performance. And yoga can be one of the means of doing it. It can be just yoga if the environment is confined where it is not possible to do exercise, or these exercises can be done in adjunct with the physical exercises. And again, the philosophy is very simple. If the heart rate of an individual is, let's say, about 60, can yoga bring it to 55? And the upper limit from 160, can we go to 165? If we can broaden this limit, physiological limit, performance will improve. And this is what we are trying to do, this is what we are trying to achieve, and this is what we monitor when we are administering these yoga packages to different armed forces like Navy, Air Force, and Army. So these effects we all know very well. Only thing is we are again validating them through the technological advances which have taken place in the biomedical instrumentation. I can just repeat all this for you. It has been said by many of the previous speakers. Like yoga practice improves physical parameters, no doubt about it. Body weight, skin fold thickness. We have immense data to prove it improves physical parameters. Musculoskeletal, flexibility of joints, muscle gets strengthened, and all this improves performance. Similarly, lung function, very, very important. Lung functions are very important because when we talk of stressful environmental conditions, and especially high altitude, what is very important is to make oxygen available to the cells. And this is what is a limiting factor at high altitude. And we have seen, we have a lot of data where we have collected that lung volumes and capacities increase, meaning thereby there is more oxygen available into the body system. It also, what it does is it minimizes ventilation-perfusion ratio mismatch. And all this add to better performance. Breath holding capacity, again very important parameter if one have to improve performance. Similarly, cardiorespiratory, blood pressure, heart rate, tidal, even aerobic capacity improves. Autonomic function, there is a improvement in the autonomic function. A lot of work has been done in terms of recording heart rate variability, trying to understand LF-HF ratio, because any stressful environment initially causes increase in heart rate, increase in respiration, increase in cardiac output, stroke volume, everything. And with the yogic practices, there is a shift from increase, and it tries to come back to the more physiological level or to the basal control. And this is what yoga can do. And it again helps in improving performance and also facilitating performance. Cold tolerance, especially for high altitude, some of the yogic asanas can improve cold tolerance. Core body temperature doesn't change, does not fall in spite of these people being exposed to cold environment. Mental functions. To my mind, I always say that mental functions or cognitive functions are more important than physical performance in this era, because of the technological advances. War may not be, it may not be a war for few days or few days or maybe more. It will be for few minutes. And that time, what is more important is the cognitive ability of a soldier, of a commander, how to take decision, how to take the right decision at the right time. For this, again, we have seen that yoga packages, when they are given, it is a time-dependent study, we found that some of the brain functions improves. They improve. Like EEG, alpha domination is there, then some of the other, we have seen some of the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It is a factor which helps in survivability of the nerve cells. And brain is such a plastic structure, and we know it is such a plastic and elastic structure, undergoing continuous change every moment. Every experience brings out change in the brain. It is very plastic. But then increased BDNF suggests that in spite of the stressful environment, the brain is trying to maintain its function, trying to be plastic, trying to adjust, trying to learn, and trying to also perform in the new environmental conditions. We know all these suggest there is a improvement in the reaction time, memory, learning. We know memory again, when one is staying in this stressful environmental condition, especially high altitude, extreme high altitude for few months, short-term memory gets deranged. And we have seen that yoga practice can improve these functions. Psychological function, as has been said, it reduces anxiety, depression, concentration, enhances, vigilance is improved. And all these are the requirement of the people who are there for a very specific job. Similarly, we are trying to, this phenotypic behavior or the behavioral studies, we corroborated with some of the neurotransmitters or biochemical variables which are there in the body. The brain, which is a chemical computer or a software which is the master of ceremony for all the functions which carry out. If the brain functions are normal, if they're biochemical, the neurotransmitters levels are normal, most of the functions will be normal, and in terms of the physiological functions, most of the function will get to the normal or may also get much further better with practice of yoga. And all this suggests, like cortisol is the stress hormone. It's a very good indicator of stress, and we have seen after the yoga practice in those high altitude, we found cortisol level decreases, which suggests that stress is less. Similarly, yogic practice biochemically, antioxidative stress is reduced, which is again, very buzzword which everyone is talking, and they associate oxidative stress with so many diseases. Antioxidant system improves. we have done in NDA cadets again, this suggests that all lung functions are improving, heart rate, physical performance, physiological functions improve. Similarly, for BSF, this again suggests, there is an increase in anaerobic capacity. The lactic acid threshold increases, maximum voluntary ventilation capacity increases, breath hold time increases. All this point out that performance is increasing. Yoga as a preventive. Of course, we have seen, in high altitude. High altitude is a very stressful environment, and then people are there for at least 2 years till the altitude is of about 4,000 meters. And we have seen that yoga practice in adjunct with exercise improves all this. There is a blood profile improves, the lung volumes and capacities, maximum aerobic capacity increases. Similarly, curative. We have seen essential hypertension, and these are some of the slides where you can see people doing mass yoga in some of the camps at high altitude, in some of the sea levels and other places. And all this, what I have said, has been contributed by many of the scientists of DPAS, Dr. Mantusha, Dr. Baswa Reddy, who has been pioneering, especially the customizing the yoga packages for different forces. And of course, Dr. Selvamurthy was the one who started research in yoga in our institute, and we are carrying it forward. And till now, we have trained about 8,000 soldiers in different conditions, and some of the soldiers have become trainer and they're training more. And our aim is to train at least 12, there's a 12 lakh army. We want to train at least 10 lakh army in next 3 years. With this, I want to thank every one of you.
I would like to invite Sri Krishna Madappa, who will be speaking on bioenergy, parameters and yoga.
Namaskar. Let's take a moment and just take a soft, deep breath. We've had some intense moments, so could we just do that for about 10 seconds? Yes? Just take a breath in, please, to the count of 3. Hold to the count of 3. Let's breathe out to the count of 3. And still. My great pranams and gratitude first to Bharat Mata, where this infinite wisdom that we are sharing and also conveying through the sciences has birthed. My great gratitude to Guruji Dr. Nagendra, who is pioneering direction and efforts in weaving the sciences of light to exemplify the quality of life in all. And also to dear Modi ji for the passion that has guided him to steer the wealth of a nation and to bring about the youth so that we could be the beacons of light to shine across not just the world, but the entire civilization of cosmos. And these were the wishes of our great rishis. And my pranams to all the rishis, so that the wisdom that has permeated through centuries filter and flow through to awaken us in our totality, so that, as Swami Vivekananda conveyed, education is the manifestation of the perfection that's already in all of us. In this short segment, I'd like to bring two instances in place because the focus is in yoga, and the vital essence of what yoga conveys for the full manifestation of the totality that is within us and live in health and well-being, beyond physical health, beyond mental health, beyond spiritual health. But as Sri Aurobindo conveyed, let us bring that supramental nature and bring it so that we can dissolve from the ignorance of mind, matter, and life, and create a brilliant life here. That's the essence. A little history. I've lived in the US for about 40 years. I run an institute for science, spirituality, and sustainability with two dear friends and colleagues. And the technology that I'm going to share today is from a very dear friend and also colleague from St. Petersburg, Russia. His name is Dr. Konstantin Korotkov. And the technology that he has brought out, when I first met him and I asked him, what inspired you to bring this out to the world? And he said to me, Krishna, when you awake, knowing that the most powerful force of all, the universe, is love, you are guided to bring forth that which can assist in the transformation of collective consciousness. So, we have, right now, we have a huge trend that's occurring, and we call it, in the yoga of wellness, we have multiplicity of platforms that has evolved over a span of about maybe 40 years, from alternative all the way now to what we see as energy medicine. Why energy medicine? Because we are that, and I'll get a little more detailed as we progress. The assessment device of Dr. Korotkov's is what we are looking at up here. And you can see that that little box on the left-hand side, where you place your finger through, and it provides a wealth of information, because this basis of information is based on 3 platforms. The platform on Chinese medicine, the platform that assesses the energy centers, and based upon the sympathetic parasympathetic systems. So we get very detailed and very deep analysis, as you can see on the bottom right, which is the sectorization of all the fingers to the various organs. The application of this science and technology is very vast, and these are some of the platforms on which the assessment is fostered. With Dr. Nagendraji in Vyasa, over the last 3.5 years, he has dedicated an entire floor of his laboratory to the study of bioelectrography, which is essentially the study of light. Today, this morning at Rajpath, we did a study on the energy of space. Why? Because if the thoughts we think is the world we create, then would we not be able to measure it? Because the space is abundant in molecules. And I'll come to that. So these are the 2 areas we will address. One is when Guruji was in Houston last year. This was at the Museum of Modern Art in Houston, where he took this entire group through what we got to observe today and participated today. So there he is, there's dear Guruji, and we did a study. It was just a basic, we wanted to see the effect, and this was a person who had a very senior position in the Museum of Modern Art. And we could see the energy field on the left side and the energy field on the right side is quite significant. The right side is the post and the other one is the pre. So in assessment, we can really very clearly begin to see that the practices that we got to undertake inform the field, which is we are predominantly molecules governed in water, and water is governed in light. So what we are addressing is the flow of light through our entire system. The effect on the alignment of the system, which is our energy centers. Again, we look at the universe, as we know, is based upon order and elegance, which is part of the unified field. And we are part of that unified field, and our invocations through the Vedas very clearly illustrate these practices. This, again, is an example of how the fortitude of what we do supports a system to create self-organizing domains and thereby enhance our health and wellness. We don't need to look at disease. Rather, if we were to address health right at the onset with integrative practices like this in our educational systems, well, what are we creating? This is what dear Modi ji shared this morning. Did he not? And it's absolutely clear, because we look at the bottom chart on the right, bottom chart, it's about the organs. So we see that the purple is the post and the orange was the pre. So if the organs, the energy of the organs, which is what we are measuring, has enhanced quite significantly, could you imagine how, if this was sustained, what that would do? This is an analysis of showing the orange is the pre and the blue, purple is the post. And all the way we can see that there is a computational enhancement, very stable and all the way across. So what are we observing here is that there is stability in system. So if there is stability in system, it also optimizes functioning of the system, which means it optimizes everything from the sympathetic, parasympathetic fields, but also it, as Swami Vivekananda conveyed, what is within us is perfection. The outer world can attain perfection only when the inner world inspires, guides, molds, and shapes the outer world. And this data fundamentally shows that. So can we measure human thought, which is the aspect of what we have been exploring? All these areas that I'm sharing with you has been in evolution over the last 20 years. That's been my association with the inventor. So I'd like to read this out. All power is the thinking power of the mind. All the universe is mind, and all the universe is thinking in unison. Mind is that universal one thing which man calls God. Mind is the universe, mind is all one. Nikola Tesla, a very brilliant engineer, scientist, he said, if you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. That essentially is the technology that has gone into what Dr. Korotkov has brought out, and that's him, right here. So this was this morning, and you can see our setup. We were right there by where the media networks were. And so you look at the device that's on the front. That's the one that transmits. We send a high voltage out, and this high voltage, which is it's like a Tesla coil. So it streams in all directions, and we know light, we know the speed of light. So what are we picking up? We are picking up the information that is occurring inside of this entire space that we got to experience this morning, and capturing the capacitance between the molecules. So that capacitance is then passed through the biowell, which is the white box, that has a titanium electrode. So there's a signal that is imprinted every 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds, through the level of activity that is being conveyed, is being imprinted, and at the end, we compute the data. This is one set of data. This is one data set. And this data set is what we measure as a unit of energy. And energy is a measure that we value in joules, which is a thermodynamic principle. So the first part, can you all see this very clearly? Yes? Okay. I hear some no, some yes. Is that yes? No, you can't see it very clearly. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what I can do about it, but let's walk you through here. The first part of the chart is the calibration. And then the second one down there is there was a lady out on the podium that was conveying through little sound bites on yoga and sort of conveying to the entire group of participants what's coming. And then the next one after that, so you can see that from the calibration, we look at values that are down below 1.20, and then she announces that dear Modi ji is going to be arriving, but you can see that there's a gradual decline in the energy, and then as soon as Modi ji arrives, we can see that there's a spike in the energetic potential of the space. And then we'll continue to the next one when Modi ji begins his transmissions to the entire group. Then Modi ji comes walking down and is sitting right there with the group in position of yoga, and we now begin to observe a gradual ascent in the energy potential of space. But this has a lot of emotion that is coupled with it. Then the yoga begins, which is the next one. Then the asanas continue. And then I just marked that one particular asana. It says asanas to overcome depression. So all that sequence continuing, and the conclusion was the Niramaya Sutra. And you can see how there's a gradual ascension of energy. Why? Because it was integrative, it was welcome. There was a nurturing process that was taking place. And this was collective. And that collective emotion is what we then observe. And then the last one is when Modi ji continues, and the rest of them, the event is dispersed, and we see the clouds coming along, and I stop the system at that point. The next one is actually what shows us what are the statistical distributions through standard deviation. So this one I would relate to as the degree of consciousness shifts that take place at any given point in time, because we are addressing emotion. We are addressing the collective nature of an event that is of tremendous propensity, and where we, as in Bharat, are guiding the energetics that can inform and inspire the rest of the world. Because all wisdom resides here. And that's very vital for us to digest and be able to manifest it. And this is a great gift. We are at a tremendous point in life, and a tremendous point in the timeline when we see so much chaos occurring around the world. And what a gift that is for us to be able to nurture and create a vital life so that it can be for the benefit of all, and directed through a high quality of education, as our rishis have conveyed. So as you can see, that when the values, when the spikes go high, that shows that there could be a lot of emotion coming in, but entanglement. We talk about spatial entanglement and thought entanglement, because we are looking at how many people were there. I think someone said there was about 65,000 people. Is that right? Around 40,000. Around 40,000 people. So you got 40,000 neurophysiologies transmitting, receiving, transmitting, interacting. And so that's what we are picking up here. And so when the values go down, those are like still points where there's a collective fusion, where consciousness integrates, where there is only one mind, the cosmic mind. So we touch spaces like that out here. The conclusions: there was a very high level of energy built by the event. The shifts of consciousness were significant during the event. The event churned the collective emotions within the participants, but left them at a higher plane of energy and consciousness. And this is where dear Swami Vivekananda's transmission comes through. When mankind attains a higher vision, the lower vision disappears unto itself. One being with infinite energy, infinite enthusiasm, infinite courage, infinite patience, and infinite love could do more in a year than an entire civilization in a century. I think we have witnessed such a being this morning, who is being given the guidance to govern this wonderful nation. Namaskar to all of you.
Beautiful, beautiful presentation. Over the last hour, we have heard that no matter who you are, no matter what your profession is, no matter where you are, whether on the top of a mountain or in a submarine deep in the ocean, yoga is for you. Through the asanas, through the pranayam, through the meditation, how it benefits us in every cell of our body, how it benefits us in our mind, our emotions, and how it even benefits us on the deepest and most fundamental level of consciousness and awareness. Our MC has let me know that we do have time for some questions from the audience, and then our respected Dr. Nagarajaji will give his concluding remarks. If anyone has any questions.
Dr. Krishna sir, I have one question. What is the name of the device you have used to collect this data?
Sometimes it works. Oh, there we are. The device, this present device, is called BioWell. BioWell, and it's based upon the science of bioelectrography. Specifically, it is electrophoton imaging and captured by gas discharge visualization, because when you look at a fingerprint that's on it's a glass electrode, there is an avalanche discharge of electrons and photons that go and impinge upon the cutaneous surface, and then that information is then transmitted through a CCD camera, and through the CCD camera then it goes through the software, which is all written in non-linear science, mathematics, and that's what it is.
Thank you, sir.
This is a question to Ms. Selvamurthy. Our yoga is most ascetic, traditional, and also orthodox. But the present generation, the dress code is very contrary to our yoga. What is your message to present practitioners and also present yoga trainers and aspirants?
See, yoga is for everyone. And irrespective of what you wear, whether you wear saffron clothing or you wear a suit like this, it doesn't really matter if you are practicing yoga. And you have to convey the message that yoga is way of life. It is only the asanas, pranayama, meditation is only the beginning of entering into that yogic way of life. So the practitioner should communicate that message, that ultimately having taken those steps of doing this yoga, you should reach that higher level, the spiritual level of yoga, which is very important, for which we are created as human beings. So that is the message I would like yoga practitioners and as well as yoga proponents and yoga teachers to promulgate that message, that the first step is to maintain your health, physical, mental and spiritual. Then ultimately the aim of yogic practice would be to achieve higher level of consciousness. Thank you.
या एक सवाल हमारा है, एक प्राणायाम के अंदर में कितने % ऑक्सीजन एक्स्ट्रा हमें मिलता है? थैंक यू.
Bole sir, you would like to answer? Pranayam. I would like to answer that first and then supplemented by Dr. Bole. See, normally when you do inhalation, breath hold, exhalation, it depends on your vital capacity. When you are taking the whole vital capacity to the lung full, then you are inhaling to the maximum. Then you are allowing the breath hold for two reasons. The first is to accumulate the carbon dioxide, which subtly changes the pH towards acidity at the tissue level, which opens up the microcirculation. So the oxygenated blood can profusely diffuse into the tissues, and then the cytochrome mechanisms at the cellular level, it optimizes economically to utilize the oxygen. So it depends on how much good your lung is. So you cannot really give a percentage. It depends on how long you have been practicing yoga, the pranayama. So it comes over a period of time, but certainly there is a very significant improvement in terms of your oxygenation in the blood as well as at the tissue level.
Turn on your microphone.
Yes. जब हम योग का शब्द का प्रयोग करते हैं, we get more energy. और जब हम कहते हैं योगा, तो उसमें थोड़ी सी एनर्जी हमारी कम हो जाती है. तो इसके बारे में आपकी क्या राय है सर?
See, it is just not only mentioning the word about yoga. It's ultimately you need to practice it. The yog started from Sanskrit word to yoke, to unite, to join together. But then when you talk about it at a global level, yoga became the word. But otherwise it started from the Sanskrit word yog. You are right.
So my question is for Dr. Krishna. So your study was lovely, but as a physician, I would like to understand first what I would like to understand is the relevance of the study that we were seeing, the study of energy.
Yes. The relevance to the study of energy?
The relevance of the study that you've done.
Yes.
In terms of the medical field or in terms of our daily practice, how is it relevant for us?
Well, I've only shown you a very tiny segment of the screens that are really available. If I were to show you more of the screens, then we would be holding the rest of the audience hostage. Because there's a multiplicity of screens that define very specifically the various values, energetic values of every organ system, both, and you can see them from the psycho-emotional perspective and also from the physiological perspective. So in essence, if the thoughts we think is the world we create, we will be able to, number one, assess how a thought could perturb the field. And if we continue in this manner, it could lead to a clinical condition. Well, the intention is that this is a system that is to really keep one well and optimized in their lifestyle, rather than get a pathology and then have to work from there. So it is, let's use it's a precursor prior to any physiological malady taking place. So, but however, the details, because it's also sponsored by the Ministry of Health in Russia and also the Ministry of Sport. So there are many screens that go into lots of detail, and especially now in Vyasa, we are mentoring many PhD students with these sciences that we've done over the last 3.5 years under the guidance of Guruji, Dr. Nagendra, and I'll be glad to share more insights with you.
Okay.
With the permission of the chair, may I supplement what was mentioned by Swamiji? See, normally the pathophysiology of any disease is one of the major causes is the kink in the flow of energy. Because after all, energy is flowing through various systems, through cardiovascular, the nerves, and also it's all energy, electromagnetic, and also the pulses which you send in the form of the nerve impulses, to talk about the clinical terms. So whenever there is either lack of energy or high level of excited energy or lack of flow of energy, that causes disease. So in the Kirlian photography which was shown there, you see in the diseased patients, you will find a lot of cracks in the aura. But whereas in a spiritually evolved person, you will find a smooth aura around when you do that electromagnetic field measurements. So this is what he showed when he showed individually. But what he showed us in the Rajpath was more of the field effect rather than on the individual. So it's a cumulative field effect he presented. Thank you very much.
Sir, आजकल के young बच्चे योग के साथ क्यों नहीं जुड़ना चाहते?
Sir, my apologies. In the interest of time, we will not be able to take any more questions. Probably we can take off stage. I would like to request
just a brief conclusion.
Yeah.
Basically, today's presentations were to show that yoga works in normalizing the sympathetic parasympathetic systems in the body. Whenever there is a stress, psychological or physical, sympathetic overactivity will occur, which will cause stress not only in the body, even in the mind. Yoga by its and yoga basically asana, pranayama and dhyana are able to reduce the sympathetic overactivity, improve the parasympathetic activity so that there is a balance, and reduce the energy consumption so that more energy is available to the body for its function. This is either at normal situation or at high altitude where there is a hypoxia associated with sympathetic overactivity. Professor Bole has brought out the importance of breathing, the perception of breathing, which is much more important in terms of producing all the effect. And Krishna Madhapa has brought out the new concept of measurement, that is the bioenergy measurement, not only of individuals, but even collective bioenergy of a group. With this, I conclude this session. Thank you. Jai Hind.
And thank you, Dr. Nagaraja, and thank you to all our revered speakers for sharing your beautiful thoughts and your work and the research which has been done. And may I request Sadhvi Saraswati ji to kindly present the mementos. First, expressing thanks and regards to Dr. W. Selvamurthy. Thanking Dr. Bhole. Thank you, Sadhviji, and may I now request Dr. Nagaraj to kindly present the mementos. Thanking Dr. Shashibala Singh. And our thanks to Dr. Krishna Madappa. The technology which he shared with us, how it has been able to capture the energies in the air, especially today morning at Rajpath. In fact, capturing the energies and the enthusiasm which was through this. Thank you for sharing with us. And I would like to now invite Mr. Rajendra Sood, the Senior Consultant at Ayush, to kindly present our regards and also thank you to our session chairs. Thanking Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati ji. And a many special thanks to Dr. D. Nagaraja ji. May I request you for a group photograph? Thank you to our esteemed speakers once again, and may I request you to please